1, 2. Here we go. It's my time to rise. It's my time to shine. It's my time to live. It's my time to fly. It's my time. Time to shine. It's my time to live. It's my time to fly. It's my time. My time. I can feel it. I can feel it. Time has come now to
Well, welcome. I'm so excited. This is Sonja Busha, or I am Sonja Busha, and you are listening to Living Life Successfully with me, Sonja Busha. I am your health and wellness coach, consultant, entrepreneur, and business owner. You know, my goal is to motivate, inspire, empower, and educate you on how to live a healthier lifestyle, whether that be your mind, your body, your spirit. And now I have the awesome opportunity to add your finances, being in an $8.5 trillion industry that I've been involved in for some time, and just teaching, individuals on how to change their mindset, how to save, how to use the product and services that we have to create a legacy for your families. And so before we just continue to go on, I want to introduce, of course, y'all have seen them, on each show with me as we've been doing this 90-day push, Michael R. Deckard. Go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hope everybody is ready for this being February. The month of love, the month of historic reminders, and we are looking forward to what we have in store for you this February. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
Wonderful. And since you said, I forgot this is what they call the love month. Oh, well.
Valentine's Day.
Look, every month is love month to me. So, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, so that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but shall have everlasting life. And so even with that being said, we were born for such a time as this. Jesus came that we may have life and have it more abundantly. And so we want to show you how to not just have, life abundantly through your health, but also through your finances. My motto, your health is your wealth. And so we've been teaching that from, weekly, and just engaging with our communities, engaging with people whosoever will watch. And I'm, again, like I said, excited to be in such a place, at such a time as this, helping and serving and changing lives in more than one industry. So this month, as you have seen, and you see my sign above, it's the 2022 Ebony Excellence Celebration. And we are highlighting African-American pioneers in the financial industry. Is what I chose to do something this month. And I want to thank you too for all of your help, because without you, Michael, I would not have been able to do so with all that not only I have going on, but that you have going on. I truly appreciate it.
No problem.
So I'm excited because we have been talking about African Americans, or what we will be talking about this month, how they have hit the cornerstones of economic development, and things that they have done building wealthy African Americans that have broke the economic barrier. It took a while, it started, and there's always a journey. In that journey, there's always a story behind it. Absolutely. And so our goal tonight is, with the kickoff, is just to start with the story and the mindset behind how, we got to where we are, and even what still sometimes seems to be holding us bound, what we're doing. And so before we get started with that story, because it's so interesting, And I want people's minds to be free tonight. So
Okay.
if we, on the next show can start introducing the legacy wealth that has been built in our communities.
Right.
But what is financial literacy and why financial literacy is important in the Black community?
Well,
In research, and then you can add on, in my research, it says that there is a strong link between financial literacy and financial wellness among African Americans. Those who are more financially literate are more likely, it says, to plan and save for retirement, to have non-retirement savings. That means something else, supplemental, and to better manage their debt. They are also less likely to be financial fragile. Now, with that being said, there is a lot of fragility in our communities. And so why the financial literacy I started out with, and why is it so important in our Black community? Michael?
Well, the main reason why, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with you. The main reason being is because I've talked to people, over the course of my adult life about things that have been done and things that have been said, and businesses that have grown and shown different ways of providing a way out, if you will. And most people look at their job, education, and things that they've done. They may have done some things in their community or at their church or even within their own families, having to help people. And financial freedom is really like, that's the essence of true freedom, right? Because if you're free and your mind is free, but you can't really do what you're thinking about because of lack of funds, then you're really not free. So financial freedom, I heard it said when in my old business, one of the gentlemen from the Atlanta area said that if Martin Luther King would have been able to put the same, just add one thing more to what he was doing when he was doing, all of the social movements that he did.
Right.
If he would have made an economic to say that he wouldn't have worn any clothing that didn't come from a store or a manufacturer or a tailor that was African American, or he wouldn't buy any food from any store that wasn't African American owned, or anything where it entailed money, then that would have changed the course of Black owned businesses, if you will. And I'm thinking that in the age that we're in today, all that's been going on with the pandemic and employers making people have to take an exam or have to get a shot to keep their job, with all of the African American men that are in prison.
Yeah,
we got to do something different, y'all. And I heard Dr. George Fraser make a comment that if we as a people don't take a minute and make an assessment of where we are, where we're going, it's not a good place. Right. It's not a good place. And so I was looking at this month being the month that has been designated, yet it's the shortest month of the year. It's only got 28 days in it unless it's leap year. It's kind of been like overstressed, but I believe now is a time for revitalization, and it's a coming forth that we need to do. I've been introduced to the financial services industry a little over 2 years now, and I've seen and heard, read, documented proof this business model can change your life. And I want to be a part of doing that for as many people. We're going to reach out through social media, our family and friends that are close by, circles of people that are within the 6 foot space of COVID compliancy. We need to get the word out. We got to spread the word. And so I'm looking forward to working together with you, Dr. Busha, and everybody that's a part of our business family and team, working with Bloom and the owners. And we're going to push and do some things that they're going to write books about it. I've been saying it, and now we're getting ready to really get it kicked off. So I'm looking forward to sharing this information. over the course of this, what do we call it? The Excellence Celebration Month.
Ebony, yep, excellent.
The Ebony Excellence
Yes.
Celebration. Oh, there we go. We've been kicking words around, so
Yeah.
sorry about that.
I wanted to do something different because they always say February is the month for Black History Month, when every day is a day for everything. Every day is something that we should be reflecting upon our culture,
Absolutely.
And so I wanted to do something and just celebrate. We should always be celebrating, but we're highlighting, of course, what we call Ebony Excellence. And, we do it in excellence, always, whatever we choose to do.
Absolutely.
Number one, because of who we are and whose we are. And that's because our Father is the Almighty God. And so he's an excellent God. He has everything already planned out for us. He has principles, for us already laid out. And it's up to us to do what we need to do.
Absolutely.
So, to kick it off, like I said, because there's so much that we can talk about, so much that we can highlight, but we had to hone in to, something specific, because this could be like all day thing, studying and just putting together information. And we want to, just like I said, just dab in and just touch base and just let, highlight how we have over the journey gone through the process, been able to break some barriers, a lot of barriers that those who are listening that you may already know or may not know of, but we're just highlighting that. And we just thought we would bring that before you and how it relates to the industry that we are in changing lives, of course, and how it's not just changing lives now, but it changed, lives in the past, present, and it's going to future change some things that, we're looking forward to. So we're going to start with this one particular person. Okay. And I call it a person, but it's really not a person. It's named after a person, of course. But I like the way you phrase it, and you're always quoting it and saying that we are always, seems like we're still holding on to this mentality. But, freedom starts, of course, in the mind. We've been free, of course, physically, we've been free on paper, but a lot of things that hold us bound is really, a state of mind. And so when we learn to actually dab in and realize who we are, and again, whose we are, we will stop placing blame upon everything or everybody and began to work together as a community. There are a lot of initiatives that are already taking place, and I commend them. And like I said, that is one of my goals. Of course, I want to be a paymaster, for the kingdom of God, of course, to advance the kingdom that we've been placed on here and just get the word out. So, but it's interesting how we're going to start out with. So I'm putting this book up right here. And I'm sure many of you that are listening have seen this book, have read, have read the doctrine or the letter. It's called The Willie Lynch Letter, The Making of a Slave. Why would we start right here tonight with our viewers, our listeners? Michael, why? Let's drop a bomb.
Well, as soon as you said the fact of we have to do something to change our mind, because of the person that you just mentioned, I won't even call him a gentleman, because of his plight of what he had set in force back when, slavery was the prime trade of business in the United States. He was hired by the slave owners because the slaves had started banding together and started working towards overthrowing massa and getting their freedom. And so Willie Lynch was well referred because he was a dogmatic, slave owner.
Yeah.
And so basically he came in and he educated the owners on what they could do and put principles in place. And he said, if you follow what I'm going to share with you, it will last 300, if not 500, 600 years. If you do it properly, if you don't, don't pull any punches. I'm going to give you information to where they will be enslaved in their minds. And so they'll do things that they don't even understand generationally. He said this years ago. And so the reason why we have to address it, I believe, if we're going to work together collectively, whether it's not even just about within FEG and within, you know, the 3M squad and these BTP financial services and team legacy. It's within the industry. It's within our community of other business owners.
Yeah.
And until we get it in our minds to work together and whatever we have to offer,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, we should get paid what we're worth for what we do as far as work is concerned. But the mentality should be, what can I do to be of service? What can I do to be of assistance? What can I do to help? Because if you do that, and that's the core of who you are, God will always provide. He always has. But we get so caught up in the money, we get so caught up in the name and prestige and being leaders board, and you know, you got to pay me if you want me to work with you, and you know, all of that stuff that this person, Mr. Willie Lynch, you know, the stuff that he implemented. And I don't know if you're ready for me to dive in just yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you a few questions. So you say I got on my glasses now. No.
Oh man, do I need to get mine too? I got you. Let's go.
No, but looking at his letter that he left behind, I know that there was a lot of controversy behind it, and it was actually delivered at the Million Man March.
Right.
You know, it became more aware. And so, like I said, there's been a lot of controversy about it, but there's some truth, I believe. You know, we're not here to debate or anything like that because of where we are today and how we seem to still treat one another and how we are still enslaved in our minds. When we look at this letter, you know, he talks about controlling, how to control your Black slaves, and how he has outlined so much in it. He said, I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. He said, I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. Let's talk about that, because we know today we deal with fear on all levels. We deal with distrust. Our culture deals with distrust.
Right.
And we deal with, you know, control.
Right. It's amazing because
and envy.
Those three things, they're not just things that culturally that we should have to be worried about, because the Bible speaks of those things being problems as well. So, but because of the way that Willie Lynch came in, and he started, you know, implementing that tactic, we do it to ourselves. And so we have to break that mental prison that we're in as a culture, as a people. So the things that he put in place and the things that he started, they're still going on today in the new millennium in 2022.
Wow.
And that started hundreds of years ago, and we still doing it. So I really believe in order for our businesses to really flourish and our businesses to really grow, and we get to the point to where we're working together like other organizations and other, you know, cultures of people, not just within FEG, but just period across the board. If you look at the other nationalities of individuals that in the United States, they look at the United States as the land of opportunity, right? And we've been here for years, but because of this programming that we're dealing with, we don't work together in a magnitude to make a difference. And that's what, to me, that's what this month in 2022, that's what this month means to me. We're going to make a magnitude to make a difference. It's a magnitude movement of change, of reprogramming our minds, of working together across the board. And let's get the financial issues that we have, that Dr. Fraser says that are underlying. We put all of our emphasis on how many degrees we have and what profession that we have. and we don't really put the value in building something that we can pass on to our kids and our grandkids, because you can't pass a job on to somebody.
Right.
Those benefits that you have as a six-figure employee,
Right.
if you get laid off, if they shut down due to COVID and business falls off, or you get to a certain age to where they can hire somebody straight out of college that they can hire for less money and get more work out of them. What are you gonna do? You got to do something different. So I think that we have to change their mind, Boucher. We have to get the programming that's been a part of our culture for generations. We got to get that out of our heads so we can move ahead.
Right.
That's how, I always want to do something to make it memorable. We got to get the bad information and the mistrust and the envious thoughts that we have of others. We got to get that out of our minds so we can move forward. And that's what it's all about. That's why we got to start there on February 1st. That's why.
Now, going back to the Willie Lynch letter also, and thank you so much for that. He used so many differences to try to make us work against each other. Let's talk about, it talked about, age. It talked about intelligence, sex, sizes, our status, which you mentioned. It talked about attitude, the color, dark versus light skin, male against a light skin male versus a dark skin, light female, dark skin female, male against female. He caused so much distrust and so much disrespect among our culture. And we're one of the one cultures, I think, that really is a symbolism of love. But because of the journey, that we have gone through, it's caused us to disconnect with one another, unfortunately. And what do we do to get back? I know women, as a woman, we talk about, it's so important that we appreciate, one another, that we tell another woman, hey, you look beautiful, or I like that dress, or you're doing well. It's women, I mean, I'm trying not to get into that, but what can we do to help, male, female communicate with one another and bridge that gap with the distrust and the envy?
The main thing that we got to do, Boucher, and I appreciate the opportunity to dive into this. We have to break the barriers that have kept us secluded, if you will, and the belief systems that we've had in place. The automatic mistrust of someone that doesn't look the same shade of color that we are, or because they're male and female, and the differences of the age, the young ones not respecting and not trusting the older ones, and the older ones being disrespectful and not sharing and teaching the younger ones. We gotta go back, and we gotta think about the fact of, I can remember when my grandfathers and my uncles would pull all of the young kids around, men, women, little girls, little boys, and sit them down on the porch and lay it all out. I mean, lay it all out about the do's and the don'ts, and the shoulds and the shouldn'ts, and the whys and the why nots. And when we would ask questions, they would always say, baby, Daddy we got to take care of this, but I'm going to get with you. So that way, and they would always make sure that they would either come by and visit, sometime later, or at the family reunions, they would always pull us aside. We got to get back to that, now, to the basics. Everybody now, they've got their cell phone in their hand. They're eating dinner in separate rooms. Nobody has dinner sitting at the table anymore.
Right.
You go through the drive-through line, pick up food. You sometimes you eat it on the way because you got to do others. Nobody spends the quality time needed to get those bad thoughts and bad belief systems flushed out of our systems, so we can work together and we can trust one another and we can believe in one another and support one another. That's the whole thing about it. And once we make it up in our mind, because what I do know is this: when we want a pair of red bottoms, or we want that Benz, we gonna make it up. We got it made up in our mind that we want that. Whatever it takes, we go get it. So we just have the same mindset. we're going to be better as a people. We're going to work together
Right.
as a people. And every time that the opportunity comes up for us to go back and say, well, that's why I did it before. That's why I don't fool with them. Because that you gotta break that up. You gotta push that out. And we have to really focus on we're gonna make a difference. We're gonna make a change. And we're going to get those barriers out of our way. That's what we got to do.
We've got, and even with the men, the women, the Bible tells us that the older women should be training the younger women.
Right.
And because of all the things, I think somewhere that may have gotten a little lost, but I do see that people, even in ministries, they're going back to basics.
Right.
Where they're teaching the women, how to be more of the woman that the word tells us to be.
Right.
And so, but it's so important that our women get in place back to where we need to be and understand our purpose, our true purpose, and our true role, as a woman. It's so important. And we start respecting one another and trusting one another. Again, that female bond as well as the male bond, and then, coming together, because we were talking about, God's sole purpose for, man and woman too, is that family, building that connection, that family connection. And with this Willie Lynch, I think you call it, what do you call it? Willie Lynch syndrome?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. That our people seem to keep holding on and don't want to let go. It's causing, that struggle between families and family, that unit, that oneness, starting with the family and then branching out into the communities is making it difficult and challenging for us to come together and respect and do and work in our purpose that we were called to do.
Well, just think about it. Some of the things in the Willie Lynch letter. He talked about if they did these principles that the slaves would trust all of the staffing of that didn't look like them, right? And so what did that create? I'll tell you. We didn't create communities that lasted and stayed in place. We'll get a chance a little later to talk about one, and the enemy tore that, right?
Yes.
So what we do is, as a culture of people, when we start making more money and we reach certain positions in life, we move away. Mm-hmm. We move into those gated communities where the people don't look like us, where the people don't have the same types of, plights in life. And so we're surrounded around people that don't really understand the things that we're doing. So it puts much more in a seclusion yet again, instead of being able to be in a community. In the community that I grew up in, every adult knew every child in the neighborhood. It didn't matter which street it was on. It didn't matter which 100 block it was in. And so if somebody did something in the 5400 block of Teos, my grandmother, my mother, and my father would know. And this is all prior to cell phones. My parents and grandmother knew before I made it home what I had done, what I had said, who I said it to, all of that. Mm-hmm. We don't have that today. Right. We don't have the love that we should have for our communities because we don't have any communities.
Right.
That's the problem.
I'm laughing and just kind of relating to what you said, because even my son, I remember him going to school, being in kindergarten, mm-hmm. and his kindergarten, and he went to Pastor Tony Evans, the what is it called? Oak Cliff Bible, right?
Right.
And so his teacher just so happened to be a member of our church.
Okay.
And so she was his teacher. And I remember, and he is very studious, well-mannered, no problems, with our children. But I remember one day he got in trouble in school, and just what you said, because we had built that community. And I believe in, community and communicating with our teachers. A lot of times when I want to communicate with our teachers, also the education system who has our children. And I know I sidetracked, but learning begins at home with the family first before you send them off. And so I did work with my children before they went off to school. But I remember he got in trouble. She whipped him before but we had that relationship.
Right.
She could get him and then call us, and we didn't have nothing because we, you know that child. You worked with him, like you said. We tend to get somewhere and then we move off here, move off to different places. But
Right.
because we built that relationship within our ministry, our church, and just so happened she worked for the school and she was his teacher, she was able to do what she thought was best because we knew it was going to be legal, ethical, and moral, and she was not going to do anything. And obviously he needed it.
Right.
So she did what she needed, and then she called us. But then you had that type of relationship. Now, if you do that to a child, you better not. You're gonna hear about the authorities, police, parents know their child and know what they do at home, but they don't want to communicate or own up to it when they go into those schools and get a report.
Right.
So it's so important that we get back to basics and building that rapport and building that community. I'm not saying go beat your child, but the word does say spare it out the rod.
Don't spider water out, or you're gonna
Right.
spoil the child.
Right. Hey, those who are joining in now, you're listening to Living Life Successfully with Sonja Busha. This is our 2022 Ebony Excellent Celebration Month, where we're highlighting African-American pioneers in the financial industry. And tonight we decided to start with what would be a good start before we move forward, because it seems to have caused a challenge with us moving forward in our community and our finances, and it's being enslaved in the mind.
Right.
I know we're drawing near to a close.
Okay.
But I do want to cover this right here in the Willie Lynch letter. One part of it did say that, what does it say? It was talking about a mental, in the mental, and it's saying, keep the body and take the mind. That was so powerful to me. He said, keep the body, take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist.
Right.
And there's another one too, but let's touch on that right now, where keep the body and take the mind.
Man, because the body is going to break, it's going to heal, it's going to get older, it's going to not be as strong. But if you can mentally break somebody, man, it's a whole nother level of breakage. And I'm speaking on, my recent plight of what I've had to deal with this breaking of my ankle. And I broke my tibia, fibia, and my ankle.
Right.
And so to mentally be broken to the point to where depression sets in and, you're not interacting, you're not doing what needs to be done, you're not staying active or being proactive, but reacting to the things. It could be a mental flush, if you will. And there are a lot of people that have gone through experiences in life that mentally it broke them and they didn't come back,
Right.
And so that's exactly what Willie Lynch was telling them. If you get their minds, their bodies will do whatever you tell them to do, because mentally they're going to be responding to what you tell them, responding to the programming that you put in place. So it's a powerful tactic, and we can do something about that, though, right? We can put the information that we get from our business partners and the company owners and the industry experts and the carriers. We can look at the things that we've experienced in the past and use those as learning experiences, building blocks to build upon to get to where we want to. And if you think about it, if you're ever cast down into a hole, right, and people want to bury you, so they throw dirt on top of the hole,
right,
there's two ways to look at that. You can sit in the hole and let the dirt bury you and you suffocate because of the dirt. Or as they throw the dirt in the hole, you move out the way and let it hit the bottom of the hole, and you pack it down and you step on it, and eventually you can get out of the hole, right?
Right.
So what I'm thinking is, in February of 2022, I've been fortunate and blessed enough to be around Dr. Boucher's, the Alice Comers. We got our business partners, Richie Rich and Mika Evans, Uncle Hank, and then we got industry giants such as chairman of the board, Ron Blumenkemper. That's my dude. I call him Bloom. We have Ron Petronovich, who is the company CEO, and then we have Bill St. Clair, who is the company president, that we have personal relationships with. They don't look like us. They are willing to throw the dirt in the hole. It's up to me to decide to pack the dirt down and step on it to come out of the hole. And I'm telling y'all, whoever's listening, whoever's been wanting to figure out a different way, if you got an email from your job and they saying you got to get COVID compliant, you got to get vaccinated, or you got to, if you've already made the choice that you don't want to drive down that highway, and we got an opportunity for you. Come holler at Dr. Busha at every venue in social media except for TikTok. You can get with me on Indeed or shoot me an email. It's my name, michael.deckard@gmail.com, or text 40292 to 63975. 15 to 30 minutes. If you're an individual that wants another way out, if you're a business owner and you want to reward your employees, or you need something to protect your business, same thing. Dr. Busha at every social media outlet except for TikTok.
Thank you
Michael.
so much for that plug. Two more things, Michael, because this Willie Lynch letter was really great. When you were talking about the breaking, about the original breaking, and about the mind, he said also, don't necessarily concentrate on the people, the original breaking, but concentrate on the future generation. And so that was powerful. I want to talk about that, the future generation. And that's where there's a gap now between the elderly and between the what we call the millennials. And we need to bridge that back together. But there was a reason why he said focus on the future generation. And then the last one was the breaking process of the African woman. And I believe about the African woman, he was talking about, because if you can get to that African woman, that woman, she's the one that is that nurture, in that beginning stage of, family. So let's talk about real quick, briefly, about the future generation and where our future generation is today. And then let's talk about that African American woman.
Well, the two things I think about the most is we are part of that generation that he was speaking about. So we're living proof of what he was talking about. And so if we don't do something to change it, it's going to continue to go to another cycle. And the millennials and the Gen 10ers, they're going to be, the ultimate, generational belief that the words that he put and the actions that they put in place, man, I mean, it's unprecedented. I would say that that's the most successful plan that I've ever seen, and I would really like to be a part of the change of it. Now, that's not saying that there are not some people that have been successful. That's not the truth about it. But as a culture and as of the larger amount of people, man, it's looked at a statistic, and 2.7% of every business that's open today looks like it's African Americanly owned. And so I don't think that we survived slavery and that we survived all of the Jim Crowisms and everything that was done and put in place. I don't believe that Martin Luther King was assassinated and Malcolm X killed for the efforts that they made for us to get this close and not cross over. Too close. We are too close. We have access to everything now. There's no ceiling on our income. We have access to the $8.5 trillion vault. We have like Bloom and Petro and St. Clair that have offered to assist us to tote out as much of it as we can grab, right?
Yeah, without it being illegal. So true. Now,
Yeah.
with that African woman, it says, it read, take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. It says, test her in every way because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance and submitting completely to your will, the letter said, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit out of her. He said, though, don't kill her, because in doing so, you would spoil good economics. And so I'm not going to read the entirety of it, but it's saying that, the woman, like I said, is where when that child is born, she's going to be the one most generally in that child's ear. Right. And that's where, when the male, they took the males from the house, they divided the male from the women. And if she has a son, because of things that have happened to her husband, happened to that male, women, they fight for the men. I'm not going to get into a debate about the other way around, but it would be nice to see more of our culture talk more positively about African-American women. Right. Because we stand strong for the Black African men. I know there have been some, different challenges throughout history. But if you look at it, she will then, because the male is not in that household, she will, because she fears for the life of her son, she will then tell that son, instead of feeding the mind, she's going to tell him, more of the opposite, so that he will become not physically strong in the mind, but more in his body. And so we need to get back to having not only our females, because they're the ones that's becoming more independent. They're the ones that's basically starting their own businesses. They're the ones that, you hear all these different songs and different things out, what they don't need, what they have on their own. But if we would get back to basics and teaching our women as well as our men to be the warriors, to be men of thought, to be the priest, the provider, the protector of their homes, we would get back into alignment into what God originally ordained for, families covenant. And that's not, what do you call it? Specific, color specific, but that is alignment.
Right. Absolutely.
Culture, unfortunately, has been snagged of that. And so it's important that as a community, as one, that we become more aware. Right. Retrain our minds.
Well, and to close out, if you will, with the thoughts of what you just said, over 88% of every prisoner in every prison in the United States is African American male.
Wow.
And the whole reason behind that is, just like Willie Lynch said, don't kill the woman. She's an economic gold mine. So if they separate the men and put them over in prisons, which I call it modern day slavery, remove them from the household, so there's no influence in the household from a man, there's no protection from the men, there's no economic empowerment for the men. Once a man goes to prison, he loses a lot of it. He can't vote anymore. He can't go get regular jobs. So he has to use mentally something to do. And most of that time it's going to be motivated to be illegal, so they can put him back in the factory again and let him keep doing what he's been doing. So he's removed out of the cycle of life. So we have to look at the fact of how true that is, and how, I hate to say it, but how successful that game plan has worked. But I want to be part of the solution. And if we could get with the Tyler Perrys and come up with a movie or a series, the David and Tamala Manns and the people that can get in the entertainment, because the saying used to be, if you wanted to hide something from a Black person, put it in a book. So that's why Dr. Fraser said he has a library that's so big that his wife threatens to leave him because he buys so many books and reads them, right? He said he reads over 500 books a year. That's crazy. That's a lot of reading, So I'm just saying, the thing about what we need to do as business owners, as franchisors, as people in the financial industry, we
Mhm.
have something that we can change people's lives. And if you can change somebody's life, if
Mhm.
you help change their mind about the reasons why we do what we do
Yeah.
and give them a purpose for doing something different, it'll be long lasting and we can break the Willie Lynch cycle. And that's what my goal, ever since I heard about it, that's what I've wanted to be able to do. I believe we were on our way before into my old business, but I have no doubt about it.
Yeah.
We can reach that goal, and I mean, it'll be books written about what we've been able to do and accomplish. And I'm looking forward to doing that. Looking forward to doing it.
Right. And in our industry, it's so important that we get the word out because we are the least serviced community, African American culture, and making sure that not only do we have life insurance in place, but that we have our income protected, learn to start saving, not about how much, but that you start doing something now. And
Right.
that we learn to live within our means, becoming financially healthy by living within our means and spending wisely and learning to free up our funds. If we are in debt, learning, what we need to pay off first, get with a planner or someone and strategically start freeing up those funds and then building emergency savings and avoid excessive borrowing and managing your existing debt would be another financial health tip, as well as saving for the future. And I love that, saving for the future. We have
Right.
that product in place for you and protect what matters. Guess what? We have that product available for you. And so it's important that we become financially healthy as well as financially literate by
Right.
hitting some books, like you said. We don't want
Right.
to be hitting some books, read magazines and online publishers about financial literacy. Use
Right.
financial management tools that are available to you. Listen to podcasts that are available to you. Listen to Living Life Successfully with Sonja Busha. I'm giving financial tips. I'm telling you what's available out there, but it's up to you to take the information and
Absolutely.
make sure you book an appointment on calendly.com/Coach Sonja Busha or with Michael Deckard or with some of the other people that you see in our community. Start doing business with us, get rid of that Willie Lynch syndrome and going into other places and thinking that we don't know what, or just not understanding
Right.
doing. That's basically what it is. You know what to do, but because of that respect or that trust factor that we talked about earlier, it's hard to get beyond that. And a lot of times we don't want to do business with even our own culture. And then read government resources and learn more about math and break your consumer mentality and break the Willie Lynch mentality syndrome also to start getting ahead and
That's
working
it.
together.
Because we spend the money.
Yeah.
We spend the money. We are the most sought after community of consumers because they said that in every other culture, the money circulates in their community anywhere from 10 to 20 times before it ever leaves. When we as a people get paid, the money doesn't last in our community
Yeah.
longer than 2 circulations at the very most. And the main reason why is because our community isn't together. We have to leave outside of our community to go do everything that we need, everything that's needed. We have to go outside the community to get it. We got to change that, y'all.
You do.
Let's change that. It's
Yeah.
simple stuff. It's nothing complicated. Just get with us, set
Yeah.
aside time. I promise you, we'll change your mind. That's what it's all about.
I am so excited that we had this time with you. I do hope that you put your information, of course, in our chat box, that if you have any questions, again, we will be coming back. We're going to start with highlighting, of course, some of the African-American pioneers that have just done astronomical work, phenomenal work in the industry, the financial industry, people who have already that were trendsetters that crossed that, broke that barrier in the economic development, and I'm excited about it. And I'm excited about being able to educate you and be with you. So make sure you tune in this month to Living Life Successfully, excuse me, with Sonja Busha as we go down that journey together, as we talk about the initiatives and different things that are in place for you. Before we close, do you have any closing words, Michael?
Hey, I'm just telling y'all from the perspective of growing up the way that I grew up, that my parents knew, they must have known that this was going to be my mantra, if you will. So they taught me how to think outside of the box, right? And my dad being a pastor, and now that I'm in the financial services industry where, you know, we don't have to die to benefit from the policies. Had I had access to the information that I have now and had my father with the right type of coverage, you know, the things that he's dealing with now would be easier for him to deal with. So unfortunately, I have to be in the position to where I have to watch and I have to be a part of the support.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait, y'all.
Right.
We're going to put together some things for the clergy across the country. Doesn't matter what denomination, you know, we can put together some retirement stuff, because it's nothing worse than seeing a pastor that's been preaching for 50, 60 years.
Right.
And when he's too old to preach and get that payment for Sunday's work, he ain't making no money. And then his health is debilitated because he's gone in the hospitals and prayed for people for years. Mm-hmm. And now that he can't go, he doesn't have a policy with living benefits that he can benefit from. So now the first lady has to go into the church and ask everybody, can they do something to help them? Man, come on, it's time out for that. Yes. It's the new millennium. We have something that we can put in place. If you're a business owner, if you got 5 employees, if you got 10, if you got 100, if you got 1,000, if you work for a Fortune 500 company and you're a benefits coordinator, get with Dr. Busha and myself and let us get you in place where there's COVID coverage that you could potentially, you know, get for your clientele. We have key man executive policies that they can be bonuses. All of that stuff is write-offable. It's write-offable. You can write it off. It's a benefit that you can protect your business, protect your employees. Most of the time, employees are like family, right? Protect your employment family and protect yourself. It's time to make the change, y'all.
Yes.
It's time.
I agree. It's time.
Let's get it did.
So with that being said, hey, let's go build a legacy of wealth creation, and in the Black communities and every community across the nation. I know that we're highlighting the Ebony Excellence, and I'm so happy to be a part of that. But we're changing lives in every culture, and we're wanting to make sure that everyone has something in place that they are able to build, be first free in the mind, and build legacy for your families.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, like you said, it's time for that.
It's time for that.
Guess what? and I do not own the rights to this. It's my time. It's your time.
I've been waiting so long to do it.
The rights to this.
And let nothing hold me down. Gotta do it.
It's your time.
Because I may not get another chance. I believe it. If I want it, I can have it. I believe it.
What you say?
Done with falling, done with losing. I can do it. I think I'll tell myself again.